Evolution. Without it, we would all still be puddles of Proterozoic ooze. Evolution is a rule of survival for all living things. Take away evolution and we wouldn't have opposable thumbs to use tools, or brains to create the fire from 2 sticks of wood. Without evolution, we'd stand still and die. And this is no different for the biggest and the baddest of the world's car companies. Ferrari. Getting behind the wheel of this beast made me wonder, why would anyone want to move away from this formula? But then I remembered, stand still and die, evolve, and you get the Ferrari Enzo. This right here is one of the biggest masterpieces to ever come out of the Ferrari factory. They were so happy with this car, they even named it after the owner of the company, Enzo Ferrari. This is the Ferrari Enzo. Oh, I get just goosebumps from saying it. It's crazy. It's really hard actually to find a bad angle on this thing. From its nose, that it's F1 oriented and stylized for. I remember when this thing came out and I remember reading the magazines and being obsessed with them. And yes, when I was young there was magazines, not just iPads. I remember just staring at him and hoping so hard that one day I would have one or at least see one. This is Ferrari's most hardcore evolution towards F1 and everyday usability. This was a lot of firsts for Ferrari. This was the first time Ferrari introduced the carbon ceramic brakes to the production cars, and also they developed this car with Michael Schumacher. This was also the first supercar that I remember introducing the LEDs on the steering wheel. So when you're driving fast down the track or on the street, which is not recommended, you can definitely see when the engine redlines, and this will alert you whenever you need to upshift, totally making it a more focused driving car. But most importantly, the engine. The best thing about this car is that V12 on the back that we saw in the F50. The noise it makes is absolutely, stupidly, ridiculously awesome. If you've never listened to a Ferrari Enzo, you might want to look into that. If you're a big car guy and you really like the sound of big engines, please do yourself a favor and search for videos of a straight pipe Enzo. There's no more brutal sound in the world. Be sure to wear a pair of pants, an extra one, because you'll need it. This god of a car, because we need to call it that, produces 660 horsepower out of that V12 naturally aspirated engine. And we're talking about a car that came out in 2003. Even though this is the heaviest car in the lineup so far, this is by far the fastest. It's not even close. This car alone made Ferrari the top dog in the hypercar world 10 years ago when this came out. And every single McLaren and every single Carrera GT owner just wept themselves to sleep because of this guy. It's actually drivable, it's comfortable, it's big, it feels spacious. Yeah, nothing inside of here is digital. I don't have a radio. My windows, I think it's hysterical too, the fact that I can roll up next to someone and I have to roll down my windows like this so they can ask me how much I paid for this car. There's really not much to distract you from driving in this car because you're just sitting there. There's no power windows even. There's no fancy navigation screen. There's no electric seats. There's no radio even. But you know what he does have? Speed. Listen to that. It shouldn't be legal to have this much fun. This must be how it feels to die and go to heaven and come back to earth and own a Ferrari Enzo. I remember when the car came out, I couldn't believe the numbers that Ferrari was putting out with this. This engine was able to produce so much horsepower. It just blew my mind. I thought at that point, all right, there's never going to be any way that Ferrari's going to be able to outdo themselves and put a bigger engine with more horsepower in their cars. But as my wife always tells me, I was wrong. Alpha, the Omega, the first, the last. This is the Mona Lisa. They're Homo sapiens of cars. And this right here is the pinnacle of the technological evolution by Ferrari. The Ferrari LaFerrari. This thing is so badass, it has Ferrari on its name. A few months back, a friend of mine that owns one of these bad boys let me drive his car. I know, he let this peasant drive his LaFerrari. And I have to say, it was extremely life-changing. I was not expecting this car to be as good as it is, as raw as it is. Just look at that. This is Ferrari's masterpiece. The LaFerrari is a true collection of insane figures all around. New hybrid assistant technology with an electric motor that puts out an additional 160 horsepower on top of its naturally aspirated engine. A 6.3-liter V12 that produces a neck-breaking 789 bhp for a total of 949 bhp combined, making it the hypercar from the Holy Trinity with the most power output of the three. Brakes with battery regenerating curse technology that helps the battery motor charge up every single time you hit the brake. A push-rod inboard suspension, and we see active aero for the first time in here too. And an engine that revs up to 9,350 RPMs with a top speed of 217 miles an hour. The numbers this thing puts out are absolutely insane. The speed that it can achieve, the acceleration, the braking, the suspension, the handling. So is this a prancing horse or an intimidating beast? Why don't we just find out? Driving this fast, the numbers that this car pulls is absolutely brilliant. But what do these numbers translate to? Getting behind the wheel of this thing and listening to that massive V12 roar, I don't think there's anything that can get a car guy with a bigger smile than this. Everyone now in the hypercar market is building smaller engines, right? Because they need to go with the times. Ferrari, thank God, has stayed true to their roots by putting a massive V12 on the back that produces an insane amount of horsepower and sounds like a dream. What's most impressive is that we hit an age where these cars don't have to be empty anymore. They actually have radios, power steering, power windows, iPod Connect, Bluetooth Connect. I mean, even navigation screens with a digital cluster, because a regular cluster couldn't put up with the speed that the car can achieve. The car just moves. I'm not even a good driver and it moves. Look at this. None of that, none, can describe the feeling of getting behind the wheel of the greatest Ferrari ever built.